Hello, everyone, and welcome back to your favorite podcast. It's called Stop the Internet Podcast. I'm Erin.
I'm Kelee. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
We're here with our dog, Blue. Oh my God, that was perfect timing.
We are out of town this week to celebrate the new year. So we are recording with our little puppy in our little makeshift studio.
And we're going to pop some champagne because it's the new year. Woo! It's actually New Year's Eve right now. And we just did spray tans and my skin looked crazy. So that's why I am wearing a turtleneck that goes all the way up to my chin and covers most of my skin.
Maybe I need to cover up a little bit more.
Yours actually looks good, I think. I have makeup on over it to cover it too. So we only have one camera angle today to hopefully not get a close up on how crazy the skin is looking.
Shall we pop bottles?
Yes, we're going to Oh, Blue, you're so cute. Yeah, lay down.
You can lay down, Blue.
Oh, if you're not
Blue.
watching, tune in. Okay, should we pop it?
Yes.
Woo!
Cheers to 2025.
Oh, that was so
Cheers,
cute.
Blue.
Can you lay down?
Cheers, buddy.
Okay, so like Rebecca and I talk. Oh, Blue, it's a coaster.
Blue doesn't know how to handle himself.
He's just sitting here like he's
on a podcast.
like he's the third Oh,
he's
there
about
he
to
goes.
leave.
Okay, bye.
This is the problem when we record on the road. We don't have Kenny here to handle everything.
Yeah, that's why the setup is janky because we don't have Kenny. If you're new to the podcast, Kenny is our intern who basically
Has been an intern for a very long time.
Yeah, he'll get a
retains
promotion
the
soon.
title. Just retains the title. It just is easier at this point.
Yeah, he'll get a promotion soon because he deserves it. He does everything for the show, but we just still call him the intern because, you know, we retain all the roles we started as. We are all hosts and he's just our intern. But Kenny literally does everything for the podcast. Kenny sets up the mics. He built the studio. He edits the podcast. He does all the sound engineering. He edits all the reels. He does all the social media, the branding, everything. So without Kenny, we would be
Cheers to
not
you,
here.
Kenny.
So anyway, like we were talking about last week, if you listened, I was feeling like this time of the year, I just don't feel like talking about like New Year goals and like
I literally never set New Year goals. I never like make a mood board. I never go into the year with like, this is what I'm gonna do. And like, is that toxic of me?
I don't feel that way. Usually I am like super excited and I'm like, goals. I did write down a few things. I don't think it's toxic, but for me right now, I'm like, I don't feel like talking about like, here's how to set yourself up for success. Like, I feel like that's what every brand right now is like throwing like New Year this, end of year sale, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, can't we just have fun? Like, can't we just talk about funny things and be lighthearted and not everything has to be like productive, new goal, get $1 million, set up a Roth IRA.
And also, if you're not in a good headspace right now, do not let the new year stress you out.
Yeah, exactly. Like
literally nothing is going to change.
Really nothing changes. So if you're in a positive headspace, like sure. But if you're in a negative headspace, that's fine too. And that's not on that.
Anyway.
So I was thinking, instead of talking about like New Year stuff and whatever, I had this idea based off of kind of a few of our clips that went viral on TikTok.
Ooh.
Talking about weddings. I thought we could do insane wedding guests.
Okay.
Because Erin and I, if you have been following along, we're kind of ranting about weddings from a different angle. We were ranting about how when you have a wedding and all of your friends are adults, you should still give your single friends +1s if everyone that's in a relationship automatically gets a +1. And those clips really went viral on TikTok. And it was so fun reading all the comments. And I did notice that a lot of the comments were about that specific topic, but there were a few in there where I was like, I feel like people are kind of just like ranting about weddings in general.
Okay.
And this is like the forum that they're doing it on. Mm-hmm. So I pulled together a bunch of kind of like mini stories. They're not really long that we can read about like crazy wedding guests.
I hope I'm never the crazy wedding guest.
I know. Reading these stories, I'm like, not that I think that I get crazy about weddings, but I have been realizing now that a lot of my friends are getting married, weddings do make people crazy. And I feel like they make people jealous. There's a lot of feelings that come up with like, oh, that person's your maid of honor, or that person is the person that gave the speech. And like, I wasn't invited to the rehearsal dinner, but they were, and like all this random stuff. So I definitely do think weddings create a lot of drama. And I have a second episode, or not a second, but an alternative episode in the works that is like, do weddings ruin friendships? And it's all these situations that are like more detailed about that. So that'll be fun in the future. Maybe we can do that in the future.
I feel like at this point, anything ruins friendships. Weddings, travel, politics, boys.
Honestly, yes. And
people are so quick to drop someone.
I agree. I feel like Rebecca and I were touching on that semi recently because she brought up the fact that when did we get to the point of society where we can't ask people for a favor? And I was like, wait, that's so true, because everything you see online when people are like, oh, this friend of mine asked me for X, Y, and Z, or they did this, or we got in a fight and they said one thing. People are like, toxic, drop them. You don't need that energy in your life, like yada, yada. And it's like, people make mistakes. Like, yes, there are some people that are just not a good friend and they're never going to be a good friend because it's just who they are. They're selfish. They're mean internally. But then there's also people that are lifelong friends and they can prove to you that they're a good friend time and time and time again. But yet then they do one thing. And if you share about it online, everyone's like, drop them, toxic, dumb. And it's like, why is it so quick to ruin friendships when it takes years to build them?
I had this talk with someone after one of our recent singles episodes where we talked about like how you might want to like get married, have kids, start your life now. I don't want that. I want a different life right now. I had this conversation with someone because we had a friend years and years ago who was, again, on a different path in life than we were. And I think they got pregnant at one point. And no, they did. They were pregnant. And we had other stuff going, like very big stuff going on in our lives. And we didn't reach out to them, I guess, as often as we should have, or whatever. Regardless, that person decided to no longer be friends with us. And it all kind of boiled down to we weren't present during and throughout their pregnancy. And I completely understand why you would want your friends to be present, why that would upset you. But at the same time, I understand I never reached out to you. How's your pregnancy? How's this, that, and the other? You never reached out to me to see why I never reached out to you. I had a whole slew of things going on at the same time. So you have to remember that friendships go both ways. Like, you might be offended that your friend asked you for a favor, but you're allowed to ask your friend for a favor too. If you're asking your friend for a ride to the airport, maybe it's because they're visiting you. Or if you're asking your friend to like stop and pick something up on the way to your house, they're coming over to hang out with you for a reason. It's just, or you're going over to their house to hang out with them for a reason. You just have to be a little bit more open-minded that not everyone has the same goings on in life as you do. And just because they're not going through what you're going through doesn't mean that they're not going through their own, leaps and bounds of their own.
Yeah, that's a great point, actually, because I feel like people would be so quick to be like, well, how could you possibly not have reached out to your friend during their pregnancy, their first pregnancy? Like, that's a huge life thing. And it's like, well, maybe they did have a reason. And maybe you should be asking the question, why didn't you? Not how could you, but rather why?
Right.
That's such a good point. And I do feel like we all need to remember that not in a negative way, but just in a realistic life way, people don't think about us as much as we think they do. Mm-hmm. And not everyone's decision making revolves around you. And I feel like so many people forget that especially when it comes to things like plans, weddings, like big life events. Yeah. And it's like, I would love to have like all my best friends there, but maybe the person that didn't include you, maybe they have toxic in-laws that are paying for the entire thing and using that against them as blackmail.
Yeah.
Like, you literally never know. And I feel like it's so easy for us to get offended when it's like, well, they didn't invite me to this, or they didn't do this, or X, Y, and Z. And it's like, maybe they had a reason for it. And maybe in like the kindest way possible, they just didn't consider you, because you can't consider every other person you're semi-friends with in every situation. And when that happens and you're not considered in every single person's every situation, you don't have to get offended. Okay. Sometimes you can cut your friends some slack.
Especially when people are under stress, like planning a wedding, or like even if you have something very personal going on in your life, like you're not waking up thinking, how is my friend from kindergarten's pregnancy going today?
Right.
You are waking up thinking, how am I going to get through today? You're not thinking about, oh, you know what? My college roommate got engaged 6 months ago. I should reach out and see how wedding planning is going. You're not going through these motions. If people have their own stress going on, I'm not saying that it's, reasonable for them to never reach out to you again, but I'm saying you need to cut people slack, because people don't wake up in the morning and think about the big life events that you have going on. They wake up in the morning and think about what they have to deal with today.
Right. Just like you do too. Like, it's so true. It's like, if you are dealing with your first pregnancy, I'm sure you're not waking up every day being like, did I get a text from my third grade best friend? Like,
right.
But then maybe you start thinking about it and you're like, wait a second, she didn't reach out to me at all. Like, that's kind of rude. But she's not your first thought either, probably.
Yeah.
Like, maybe if she is your first thought, you're on a different vibe.
If you're thinking she hasn't reached out to me in a while, you probably haven't reached out to her either.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Okay, should we read some
crazy
stories?
wedding guests?
Yes.
Sips my champagne. My thoughts get stronger and stronger.
I know. Okay, here we go. One of my mother-in-law's best friends from childhood wore all white, like stark white. Come on.
Come on.
Head to toe. Even the shoes. Listen, I normally think it's ridiculous to give an F about some middle-aged woman's wardrobe, but since wearing white to a wedding is such a known faux pas, it makes me wonder if she was trying to slight me. Very odd. We have no issues and barely know each other, and my mother-in-law and I are very close. One of my friends, who was a little too tipsy, went up to the woman in white and asked why she thought it would be appropriate to wear white to a wedding. The woman snapped, "I've known the groom since he was in diapers. I can wear whatever I want." My friend said, "That still doesn't answer my question." LOL. The woman said, "Well, my mom said it was fine." WTF, her mom is like 90.
Okay, I'm just gonna say it. If you choose to wear white head to toe to a wedding, you chose that.
Yes.
You weren't deciding what to wear. You weren't, oh, I have two dresses. One's blue with white polka dots on it, and I don't really know if white is okay. No, you were wearing white to toe to a wedding. You were a grown woman.
White to toe.
You
said you were wearing white to toe.
I don't think my brain works today. It's 2024. My brain is shutting down. If you were wearing white head to toe to a wedding, you chose that. You woke up in the morning and you were like, I'm going to a wedding. I'm a grown woman. I know what the rules of society are.
Yeah.
And I'm going to do this anyway.
It's honestly, I kind of think when it comes to weddings, people love to take liberties like in their own. I've literally watched it happen. I'll give another example after I try to explain it. But like people try to insert themselves or do these little things that they know are probably problematic, but in their mind, they're like, oh, well, this is okay because I am X, Y, and Z person. I have this X, Y, and Z relationship with the groom, with the bride, whatever. And it's like, I know that you thought about that. Like, there is one rule when it comes to weddings, and I get it. There's these, oh, red means you whatever, and black is like, shut the fuck up. That's not what I mean. If you ask any reasonable person, what's the number one rule about wedding attire? It's don't wear white. It's really not that hard. It's so easy to not wear white to a wedding. So if you're planning on wearing white, you did that on purpose. And I think it's because you are justifying it in your head with some reason, or you just hate the person.
Or why it's about you.
Why it's about you. That's what I mean.
Her response, oh, I've known him since he was in diapers, just goes to show that she was planning this. You know what? Bride's mom, groom's mom, their siblings, no one else is wearing white. And I promise they've known them a little bit longer than you have. Okay. So maybe don't make this about you. Oh, I've known him since he was in diapers. You literally had that prepared to go. Okay?
Right. She had it ready to
You
say.
literally could have been like, oh my God, I wasn't thinking this is literally all that fits me right now. Like Regina George in when she wears pink on the wrong day. Sweatpants are all that fit me right now. Okay. Maybe have an excuse. I don't know. But like, don't be ready to go and make this about you. Well, I've known the groom since he was in diapers, so I figured his wedding day is my day to wear white. You are crazy. End of discussion.
It's crazy.
You're garbage.
My other example of something like this is I was photographing a wedding, and if you didn't know, I am a wedding photographer in my spare time. It's my side gig after the podcast.
Extra dollars, baby.
Yeah. Anyway, I was at a wedding and I was photographing the bride and groom right after the ceremony. And this, I thought she was an aunt, was walking around to all the family because it was one of those things where we were photographing a few photos of the couple while we had them. And then like we were trying to wrangle all the family members. We're like, well, mom's here, let's just do that. And like, whatever. It was a little stressful, and not really stressful, but it was a lot of back and forth. And this aunt was just there and she's like taking pictures on her iPhone. She's like jumping in next to me. Oh, I want to get that pose too. She was so involved that I was like, oh, this is definitely like the bride's godmother or something. Like, and the bride and groom were so sweet. They didn't say anything. They were just like, okay. And then she hops out. I go and like check in with the bride. I'm like, okay, are you guys good? Are you cold? Whatever. whatever. And she goes, by the way, like, I don't know why that woman's here. Oh, she's getting on and off the trolley, talking to the bridal party, doing X, Y, and Z. I'm like, wait, like, who is this woman? And the bride's like, that's like my mom's friend from work from like 20 years ago or something. Like, I don't know why she's here. I'm like, oh my God, I thought it was like your close aunt. Like, I'm just going to ignore her and like, we're going to focus on you guys rather than her.
Oh,
and
God.
she's like, okay, yeah. Later during the reception, someone gave a speech. It might have been, oh yeah, the bride's dad gave a speech, and it was a venue where like you kind of to weave through the crowd to like the tables to go say like and give them a hug after. So the bride's dad sits down, the bride goes up to go give him a hug, is walking through the tables. This woman stands up and gives her a hug like on the way, and she just like hugged her to be polite and then continued on to her dad. Could you imagine your dad, who you love and you're so close with, gives a really emotional speech on your wedding and you're like tearing up and you're like, I need to go hug my dad, and this random woman who has already been inserting herself at other parts of the day gives you a hug first? Like, get away from me. I don't care about you. I want to go hug my dad. Like, that is so weird.
Crazy.
That is so weird.
I was in a wedding recently, and it was like between the ceremony and cocktail hour type of time. And we were just kind of like putting our stuff away in the bridal suite. And the photographer came over and said something to the bride. And the bride like stops over to her dad and was like, why is she inserting herself? Come to find out, the photographer had said to the bride, like, oh, do you want to get a group photo of insert family name, like whatever, and it was like someone's in-laws like maiden name type of thing.
Okay.
And she was like, or the dad was like, how do you know that it's, you know, Aunt Kelee asking for the photo? And the bride was like, because there's no way that the photographer would have known that last name if someone didn't go up and say, we need to get a Bovelle family photo. So I just remember watching that happen and being like, if people don't stay in their lane at my wedding, they can drop the tip for the photographer. Okay. You want photos of yourself? You can tip the photographer when we're done here.
I know. As a photographer as well, it doesn't happen too often, but there are times where like we walk around and we do guest photos all the time. And then we'll do like couples, a random family during cocktail hour when everyone's mingling at the reception, like nothing's really happening. There have been times where a few random like aunts or uncles, they'll be like, oh yeah, can we get this person? Oh, can you get my two kids, my son and his girlfriend, them to this grouping? And then I like look over and the bride is like hugging her like other aunt and they're like talking and like smiling at each other. And I'm like, I need to go and get a candid photo of the bride smiling at that person. Like I can't. And then I almost like feel bad because I'm like, I just told them like, of course I'll take a photo of you. Nothing's happening. But like, oh, as a wedding photographer, there's always something that's about to happen.
Priority.
Like you need to like be looking around all the time. Like, is someone smiling? Is someone laughing? And if you see the bride laughing, like I am sprinting over to her. So I'm like trying to run. I'm like, okay, hold on one second. Like you're not the client. Like if a photographer like offers you to take photos, like sure, accept a photo, but you can't like sit there and keep them for 15 minutes, especially when there's other stuff going on. Like, oh my God, it's crazy. Okay.
Wild. Yeah, she made that about her.
Yes,
Next.
definitely. Okay. My mom and dad walked from table to table and quietly told everyone that they were separating.
No.
Why?
Were they paying for the wedding?
I mean, probably. A lot. Okay, I'm not going to judge, but many parents pay for many weddings.
I suppose, but if they weren't paying for the wedding, it makes it even worse.
That is crazy. That is bad.
That's insane.
Because you know that they were probably like, well, like we do have all the family and we do want to tell them in person.
Tell them tomorrow morning at brunch.
Right. That's just no.
Oh my God.
Crazy.
No words for that.
No. My parents went to the wedding of our former exchange student in Norway. The father of the bride drove them to the church and got really caught up in showing them the local sites. My mother, a couple times, sort of anxiously asked if they were running behind. She thought the ceremony was at 2, but the father insisted it was at 3. It seemed to her they were cutting it way too close anyway. It was getting to be 2:15, 2:30, but the father kept telling her to relax and showing her the local sites. Anyway, they pull up to the church at 2:50 in time to see the bride in tears recessing out. Her father had missed her own wedding. It was indeed at 2. Oh my God.
Did no one think like, let's place a phone call?
Well, some people don't, like maybe his phone was like in his bag. Like I mean, I'm sure they were calling and calling.
This happened to someone we know.
Yeah.
Someone we know was getting married, and the hotel wasn't attached to the venue, and there was like a ton of traffic, and their immediate family was, the bride's immediate family was like, we're gonna go drop our stuff off at the hotel and we'll be back. And everyone was kind of like, is there enough time for that? And there wasn't. Right. And they were late to the wedding, and I heard the bride was like very calm about it, and it was fine, but I definitely would have been stressed. Like, where immediate family, that's your dad's walking down the aisle, that's your sister who's your maid of honor, that's your mother who like goes in first. Like, that's crazy.
I know. And that they waited for the dad because it was at a venue, not at like a church. A church cannot wait. Like, they really can't. Like, one wedding I photographed years and years ago, it was in Manhattan, and they got ready for the ceremony outside of Manhattan. And so then we were driving into the city, and they had to like make stops along the way for a few reasons. And there was so much traffic, and we were so far behind. The bride was like getting like really anxious, and her mom's like, oh, it's fine. Like, it's fine. And she's like, no, it's not fine, because they have a ceremony an hour and 15 minutes after ours. Like, they have multiple in the day. And she's like, if we are not there, they will not do our wedding, and we cannot get married today. Like, it was so bad. And then we got there incredibly late, and they did a really, really abridged ceremony. And so it was fine. But luckily at our friends, or the person we know, they were at a venue, so they had a little more flexibility. So they started the ceremony like an hour and a half late.
Yeah.
And so the guests were just sitting there in the ceremony space. Imagine as a guest sitting there for an hour plus.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
I know. I've had friends recently, like close friends, tell us like the ceremony is like a half hour before it actually is, so that everyone gets there on time. And listen, I support that idea. I really do. As someone who is promptly always on time, like runs with the mindset, if you're on time, you're late. If you're early, you're on time. It is so annoying to be told to get there 45 minutes ahead of time and literally sit there in a tight dress, like in a sweaty church pew, and just like twiddle my thumbs for 45 minutes.
I know.
It's very frustrating. Also, side note about getting married in a church. This is not me being a hater. Born and raised in the Catholic Church, went to church, Christmas last week.
You can say it tomorrow.
Last year. Last week, go to church on Christmas. Whatever. If you're running late and the church is like, well, we can't do it. Okay, maybe do shorter readings, a shorter homily. Some priests like to talk for 45 minutes. They like to hear themselves talk. Cut out that 45-minute homily and say my wedding. I'm just gonna leave it at that.
I think some people do abridged versions, but I don't know.
They do. A lot of times they don't do communion and a full mass.
I don't really understand why they make those decisions though. Like, I'm sure there's like, maybe some churches will allow you, some I don't know.
Maybe it's cheaper to not do communion.
Yeah, maybe. I really have no idea actually.
I don't know either. Oh, you know what? I think a lot of people will do not a full mass and not communion if majority of the people going to the wedding aren't Catholic.
Right. If it's if it's a mixed religion. Yeah, a couple. Just be on time. And if you're in a wedding, or if it's your family member's wedding and you're a very important family member, triple, quadruple, check 10 to 15 times what time the ceremony is.
Still be there an hour early.
Yeah, that's another thing. Like, when it comes to weddings, you need to build in time and time and time. Like, I was just explaining this to one of my brides this past year. She's like, oh, well, we have like 12:30 to 1 before the ceremony. So can we just do that 30 minutes of photos there? And I was like, you're going to want to go inside and like use the bathroom and like take a sip of water for 30 minutes and just sit there and decompress before your wedding ceremony. Like, you're going to want to relax. And she's like, oh, okay. Like, don't fill every single minute on your wedding day. Like, you need to have time for yourself to just like relax.
And if it's not your wedding, get there early. There is no such thing as on time at the time that the bride is supposed to walk down the aisle.
Yes.
Okay. You get there early. If the bride says 5 o'clock, she's walking down the aisle at 5 o'clock. You get there early.
Yeah.
If you're on time, you're late. If you're early, you're on time. If you're late, you're a waste of everybody's time.
You're selfish.
You're literally selfish.
That other quote is like, if you're early, you're on time. If you're on time, you're late. If you're late, and some people say selfish. Some people say left behind.
I like left behind. I'm going to start leaving people behind.
Yeah.
I'm leaving y'all in 2024 if you're late. You're a year too late.
My own mother interrupted my vows. Sometimes I still hear her shouting louder as I'm drifting off to sleep. In hindsight, I should have throttled her like Bart Simpson right then and there, but I ignored her and said, I wonder what gives her the audacity sometimes. Yeah, just don't say anything during someone else's wedding. And if your loved one or whoever gets married and you can't hear what they're saying on the altar or under the huppah or at the front of the whatever, keep your mouth shut. Okay,
it's not about you.
It doesn't
They're
matter.
not saying their vows to you.
Well,
they're
okay.
saying them to their loved one.
I will cut some slack in the it's not about you, because it's like, if you don't want your guests to hear, then why are you having guests at your ceremony? You could have had a private ceremony. Okay. But when it's your actual wedding vows, like, I get why they would want to hear the officiant. And if people say like, or if there's like whispers in the crowd and they're like, no one can hear you, or the mic's not on, that helps everyone, because the couple does want the guests to hear their wedding ceremony. But when it comes to like the private vows that they're like, their hands are shaking and they're holding back tears, like trying to keep it together, you can cut your loved one some slack and you don't have to hear every word.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's not about you. Like, they're literally professing their vows to their partner. Like, that, come on.
Yeah, that's bad.
Stay in your lane, mother-in-law, whoever it was.
Oh my God, on a similar wavelength. When I was 16, I sat next to my uncle at my other uncle's wedding. He kept offering me more and more money to object. I didn't do it, but at 16, $500 to make a fool of yourself at a wedding is very tempting.
No, it's not.
Oh my God.
That's not making a fool of yourself. That is so inappropriate.
I can't imagine people actually doing this at this point in like society. But if anyone were to ever stand up and say that as a joke, I think I would never forgive them. That's unforgivable in my eyes.
Removed from the family. Literally.
Also, this might be a rumor, but I think that once you, like, if it's like in a church or like, especially if it's in a courthouse or something like that, if someone objects even as a joke, they have to like take time and like
reevaluate.
Like, I think it's like, that might be a total lie though, but I don't know.
Maybe they have to do that, like, all those opposed say I oppose, and then if someone objects, maybe, and then you have to say all those in favor say aye, and if everyone else says aye, then they can be like the motion passes and do like that kind of thing. Well, I don't know.
That's actually confusing too, because why would it matter if like someone else objects? Like,
it's not about you.
Yeah, you come here from your own free will. You've already answered that question.
Yeah,
to take thee in marriage.
Also, yeah, right.
It just is weird.
Also, back to this specific story, like, how dare an adult, a full-grown man, like, tempt an impressionable child into doing this?
I know,
like, that is
up.
like, it's one thing for like teenagers without frontal lobes, like, they don't know, like, teenagers do bad things, right? And they think it's funny. You're a grown man, uncle, whatever, and you really think that giving a teenager $500 to do this is funny? Like, are you married? Have you ever wanted to be married? Are any of your loved ones married? Like, what makes you think this is appropriate?
Yeah. Another thing, can we retire photobombing forever and just collectively agree that it's not funny and it's not cute? Maybe I would give certain people one pass. You get in one photo in the background and then you let the person take one without you. I was at a wedding recently and this uncle during cocktail hour, I don't know if it was an uncle, just an older guy, was jumping into the background of every photo like this. Like, okay, I get it once. You are now ruining their photos. You are ruining their photos, because if you're in the background with some dumbass face on, making a peace sign or whatever, the photo is not special anymore. It's not usable. It's not funny. It's just so stupid. Like, get out of people's photos. It's not funny. Like, people lack humor and they lack comedic timing, and it shows.
Okay, so recently,
oh my God, are you gonna tell me you photobombed?
I did
every photo at the wedding.
No. Okay, so here's what happened. I was at a restaurant. I was sitting across the table from someone. We were sitting at a 2-person table behind like a big like 8-person table. And we realized it was some of the Real Housewives from Bravo at the table. And they were taking like a big group photo at the table. And I was like very blatantly in the background. So I turned my head and like smiled.
Different.
Like, as if I was in it. And then they took the photo, whatever. And then they all looked at it and they were like, okay, let's take another one. And then when they went to take the other one, I turned to smile. And the person I was with was like, all right, like, you got the first one. Don't do it for the second one. And And I was like, here's the thing. I'm blatantly still in it. Like, I'm either going to look ahead and like try to act natural, or I'm just going to smile. Like, is that really horrible? Okay, maybe it was. I was pretty drunk. But I would never go follow the photographer around at a wedding and get in every single photo and just like be annoying.
I do. Okay, I'll cut you some slack for that one, because if there are people in the background in a public place and they just are looking towards the camera, it's like, well, do you want them to have a blank stare or a smile? Like, okay, it's different. Yes, I am more talking about moving your body and walking or running to a group of people that are already posing, smiling for a photo, and doing something in the background just to get attention. Like, how many times do you want me to ha 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 snap ha 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 snap? How many times do you want me to fake laugh and take a picture of you with in the background?
No. Yeah, you're just being annoying.
I know.
People can't read social cues.
No, they can't. Also, people don't know when to retire a joke. Like, I think a lost art in our society is knowing when to say a joke and then never say it again. If you have like 3 jokes and you just tell them over and over and over again and no one else tells them, those aren't really inside jokes. They're not really our jokes. Those are your jokes that you say over and over and over. And every new person that walks in the room, oh my God, did you hear that joke? Did you hear that? Okay.
You're beating a dead horse.
It has lost any sort of humor, funniness, comedy. It's gone. Okay. There's something about comedy when you hear it the first time, that's the most like hard hitting time. And my friend actually was watching a comedy show and I started talking during one of the acts and he was like, wait, can you please hold your thought? Like, when it comes to comedy, you can only hear it once. And if you listen to it again, it doesn't have the same effect. And I really want to hear this guy. And I was like, oh, okay. Let's all use that as a lesson. Okay. If you say a joke and someone happens to not hear you, that sucks. Okay. They just didn't hear you. Okay. You don't need to say it again. You do not need to say it again. Every time you say it, it gets less funny and the laughs get faker.
However, if you hear someone else say a joke and you realize no one else hears them, it is completely appropriate for you to repeat the joke and get all of the credit.
No, because this happens to me. That happens to me all the time. I feel
I'm the one stealing the joke.
If I feel like if someone came to me and they were like, what's an experience you've had more than any other experience? I would say, oh, I say something that's like really funny and nobody hears me. And then the person next to me,
I'm always the person next
and
to her.
everybody dies laughing. It just happened to me on Christmas.
Did I do it?
No, Thomas, our cousin did.
Okay.
It was Trisha's brother. No, everyone's talking. I say something. And then, yes, of course, he says exactly what I said, just a little bit louder. And everyone's like, oh my God, Thomas, here's something. I was like, guys, I said that. It was my joke. Anyway, I'll teach a comedy class one day on Patreon.
I'll teach the social etiquette class on stealing jokes. Always listen intently to the funny person in the room and say it louder.
And tell them to keep their voice down, like continually gaslight them and tell them to keep their voice down. So then when they do...
Tell them to keep their voice down so then when they want to say a joke, you can steal it.
Okay. A friend of ours who had RSVP'd with no +1 reached out to us the week before the wedding.
No.
To ask if he could bring his brand new girlfriend. We said, sorry, no, we've already had to finalize the seating charts and head count. And also, we literally have never met this girl. Well, okay, that's irrelevant.
You didn't even have to say no girlfriend. Could have just said girlfriend.
Okay. Well, of course, he still shows up with her. Late to our ceremony, so they're awkwardly standing in the back the whole time. At the reception, they stole one of the groomsmen's chairs from the head table. Come on.
Security.
Yeah.
Security. Kenny, carry them out.
In order to squeeze her in at their full table. Thankfully, the venue staff were great and didn't bat an eye, just brought an extra chair and an extra meal, no questions asked. Okay. Erin and I, everybody knows it, we're huge proponents of +1s, but you should never bring a +1 of any kind. One, if it wasn't okay with the bride and groom, if they weren't invited. Okay, I'm not happy with it, but I'll respect it. Or if you RSVP'd, no.
If that person wasn't on the original head count, you cannot do it.
No.
And if they say no, security, we need you.
I would actually get security.
That's insane.
That's so rude.
I would have someone taken out so fast.
And you know what's even worse about this person is that they texted they reached out a week before and asked asked if they could bring the person, and the couple said no and gave them a very valid reason. It's not because we don't like her. It's not because we don't want her there. It's
So
because
they did say because we don't know her.
Hey, they said that in parentheses. I don't think that they said it to him.
Okay.
I think they said we already finalized the seating chart and the head count. So
Ay.
yeah. Okay.
Anyway.
My mother-in-law gave me a list of 86 people to invite to my 100-person max wedding, leaving me, the bride, with all of 14. No, it doesn't end there.
Wait, does the groom have family?
I don't know.
Sorry.
Maybe they're included in the 86. 14? Please. I would actually, okay, I'm going to keep reading the story, but
Finish the story.
I would actually, if this was my situation and they were paying for the wedding and that's why they're inviting 86 people, I would be like, you know, I don't want to have a wedding anymore. I don't need to have a wedding with 86 of your friends and 14 of mine.
I'm going to elope to the church down the street and invite only my friends.
Yeah, that's insane. Suffice to say, I had never met the majority of the people on the list. Of the people I really didn't know who showed up, there was a Mia. Mia was going through a crappy divorce and she was in full hate mode. She drank too much, got too loud, and then dramatically threw her wedding band and engagement ring off the deck into the shrubbery. She expected people to gasp and then help her find them. No one did. She asked the venue folks to help her. They told her they were busy with, my reception. For all I know, she's still crawling around out there 22 years later. Wait, okay.
First of all, where does Mia get off?
I mean, yeah.
Second of all, they went through with this. The mother was like 86 people, you get 14, and they still went through with it.
I guess. That's insane.
I have so many questions about this.
I do too, but I do think it's funny when you have someone that's like, yeah, I'm gonna do this, and they're definitely doing it because they think everyone's gonna go with them, but then nobody goes with them, and they're just still sitting there guys, I'm gonna do this, and everyone's like, okay, and they're like, no, really, I'm leaving. They're looking all around and it's like, okay, bye, and then they stay because nobody was like, me too.
Well, you know what we really need to bring back? That saying that's don't let the door hit you where the good Lord split you.
Yeah,
that's what we need to start bringing back when people are being dramatic. Please see yourself out and don't let the door hit your butt crack.
Exactly. My dad said that one of his best friends, okay, this is funny. My dad said that one of his best friends ran up to him during the reception saying he had to leave. It was early, so my dad asked why. His friend had ripped his pants while dancing, but he wasn't wearing underwear. So he had to book it out of there quick. That's funny.
That is very funny, but I've also had many a friend rip their pants or their dress while dancing.
I haven't. I ripped my dress, but just a little bit. It was just ripped up the back seam a little bit.
I have a good friend who fully split down the butt crack her dress freshman year of college while dancing at a party. And it was iconic. And we still I have the photo. We have a photo of it. And I literally have the photo ingrained in my brain. And we were like, well, you can't go home. You gotta stay. You gotta enjoy it.
I mean, a college party, why not?
And also I don't know. I feel if you told the venue, they could wrap it or pin a napkin around your butt or something.
Yeah, probably.
I don't know. Venues have everything. Well, to an extent. But they could figure something out. They could cover your butt so that you could stay at the wedding.
Yeah, maybe.
Anyway, sorry to him.
Yeah, that's very funny though.
Cue that SpongeBob song, the ripped pants song.
Yeah, I think I would leave actually. Because the other option is going to the venue being can you make me a pair of underwear out of a napkin? And then everyone's just going to see that all night.
Oh, no, I wasn't saying make a pair. I was thinking make a skirt, something to go over the pants. Just so it's
his dad's friend was supposed to wear.
A tablecloth. As if it's a wrap, a bathing suit cover up type of thing.
Okay.
And it'll be funny. Everyone, just so everyone knows, Jerry ripped his pants. Ignore his white tablecloth skirt. No one has to.
All right.
No one has to make it mean. Anyway.
Okay. I had a family of 5 RSVP no to my wedding. Then a week before the wedding, they contacted us to say sorry, that they really do want to come. Okay. Despite their protests, my mom says it's okay. She was paying and we scrambled to make room. And then they didn't come nor did they call.
They're out of the family.
I'd be so mad. That's so messed up.
I would listen, I really don't like confrontation. I'll sit here behind the camera and say whatever I want on
the internet.
But I will never say it to your face. I would call that family personally after the wedding and be like, why would you think it's appropriate to do this to me?
Yeah, that's really messed up.
Or just charge them on Venmo.
Yeah, exactly. My bridesmaid's boyfriend drank 8 martinis and threw up in the women's restroom. All right. right. It's not that bad.
People throw up.
Yeah,
And it was in the
whatever.
bathroom.
8 martinis in a 5-hour wedding. Like, that's how long weddings are from the start to the end of the
bad at
reception.
all.
That's really not that
More
bad.
than one drink an hour. You're
Yeah.
barely over the legal limit, right?
Whatever.
I don't know what the legal limit is.
Groomsman professed his love for the bride days before the wedding and then passed out from heat exhaustion at the altar. Professed his love for the bride days before the wedding. I think this is a good example of you don't have to say every thought that you have. There are some things that you can just keep to yourself. And if you're in love with a bride that's getting married in 7 days, you can keep that to yourself.
Yeah, you really don't need to open your mouth.
Especially if she's getting married to your best friend because you're a groomsman.
Wow.
That's crazy.
Wait, speaking of a couple days before the wedding, I have a funny asshole guest story. This didn't happen to me. This was a friend was at these weddings, and it was like a third party, but they were at a destination wedding, like at an all-inclusive, and a day or two before the wedding, it might have been the day before the wedding, now that I think about it, they were at one of the bars at the all-inclusive, and it was obviously very crowded, and like this guy, I think he might have been a groomsman, I don't know, it was a male guest at the wedding, was not getting served at the bar, so he started going crazy, and he started dancing, and literally took his junk out, and like put it on the bar, and was like going crazy. Obviously was like escorted back to his hotel room, didn't show up to the wedding the next day, and then there was like, everyone was obviously mad at him because they were like, well, you literally cost us, a seat at the wedding, you didn't show up to the wedding, you behaved like that at our destination wedding. And then the next wedding that was happening, I think, was another destination wedding, and everyone was like, what will he do?
That's insane.
I know.
Don't make it about you.
That. I forget.
That's ridiculous.
Literally stop making it about
that's
you.
gross.
And also, if you like can't handle your alcohol like that, don't drink.
Yeah.
Come on.
That's a whole nother story, though. My wife's aunt ignored our signs and announcements to not take photos during the ceremony and leave it to our paid professional photographers. That asshole aunt stood in the main aisle taking photos of my wife and her father walking down the aisle, ruining our photographers' photos of the procession. When I finally got the photos that she took 6 months later, they were low resolution and out of focus. I spent upwards of 10 hours in Photoshop trying to composite one single decent photo, but ended up losing hope. She also got overly drunk and wouldn't stop harassing my already married uncle. Years later, and I still don't like that lady. I hate people like this.
I would have, I've already thought about, like, which of my friends can I, like, pay to be, like, not security because they'll be invited to my wedding, but, like, pay them to, like, speak up and be the person that, like, if they see someone doing that, like, literally grab them and take them out of my wedding.
Yeah, as a photographer, it doesn't happen often, but there is occasionally an aunt, it's usually an aunt, sometimes an uncle, who thinks that they're very important because they're like, they consider themselves immediate family, whatever, and they are standing in the aisle, and usually they're in the front because they seat themselves like one row behind the like reserved for the family and bridal party rows, and I go up to them and I push them. I politely push them into the pew, or I walk past, like if it's a longer aisle, I will walk past them or like next to them so that I can get the bride walking down and not them. But I hate when people do this. I had one aunt do it. I think it was an aunt in a red dress. And I was like, you're literally ruining these photos.
You are literally a sore thumb in photos.
The only thing I can see is this bright red dress next to the bride, like in the foreground of the bride. It's so annoying. I have gone over and like gently tapped people and been like, can you step in, multiple times? And I will continue doing it because I hate when people do this.
To all of my loved ones, should the day come that I get married, I will be splurging on a photographer, and you are not them. Please, literally for all I care, leave your phone in the car, okay? Leave it on your table. Maybe I should be that person that like collects them in a bag at the beginning of the ceremony. I've considered it. Like, you want a glass of champagne for your seat for the ceremony? Put your phone down and take the champagne, okay?
Yes.
Like, do not take a single photo. I have someone doing it. I don't want your cell phone.
Also,
Please.
the photos that they take, it's like, truly, what are you taking this for? Like, you're going to post it on Facebook and be like, my niece, nephew got married. No one is ever going to look at this photo again. Like, it's just insane. It's so annoying. And actually, a couple years ago, a bunch of our cousins like started getting married. And the first one that got married, I was actually I was tempted. I hadn't been to a wedding as a guest in so long. And I was actually tempted to pick up my phone and take a picture. And I was like, oh my God, I see it now. Like, I get it now. I get why like people are so excited excited and they're like, I want to take a picture of this person I love, but like you need to practice self-control and keep your phone away and off. I would also see it in myself to take away the phones and like have a drop box as you enter the venue. Because also I want to be the first person to post about my wedding. Like I
don't post it on social media.
Yeah, like I don't want other people like debuting my wedding.
Your dress.
Yeah, like I feel like I try to never post anything of other people.
No, I don't.
Until they post or if they say it's okay.
I agree. I would never. And as someone who has officiated a couple of friends and a couple of like family members' weddings, I'm not a priest, but you know, I've had them say to me like, you need to make an announcement when you go up, like do not get out your phones. And I still see because I'm looking out at the crowd, I still see the phones. And it's like, I'm not the officiant asking you to put your phone away. It's your niece, nephew, cousin, best friend, loved one up there asking you to put it away. Just do it if they ask.
I feel that way all the time as a vendor. I am not doing anything for myself. Like, I don't like, if I don't get this photo, my life is the same, but my client's isn't, the bride isn't if I miss the photo or if I do whatever. And it annoys me so much when I'm photographing a wedding and people that are close to the bride and groom are acting annoyed. It doesn't happen often, but it does happen every so often where they're acting annoyed, where they say something rude to me and they kind of like snap at me as if I'm asking them to give me $500 or like 17 hours of their time doing like hard labor. And I'm like, all I'm asking you to do is walk 100 feet out into that golf course so that I can take photos of you and the groomsman. You agreed to be a groomsman. What did you think that was going to entail? You've done nothing today except sit around and get ready in a hotel room, sit on a bus drinking, go to a church, sit in the church, not doing anything, travel here, sit at the bar. And now it's the 5 minutes that I need you, that I want to take photos of you and your best friend who's getting married. And it's like, why are you snapping at me? If you're not in the photos, I'm not going to notice. I don't care if you're here or not, but you know who's going to notice? Your best friend.
And you. When the photos come back and you're like, wait, why was I not in any photos as a groomsman?
Yes, exactly. And then all the other like individual or like smaller groupings, if people start getting like annoyed at me taking them, I'm like, once again, how do you think I'm calling off the list Mike, John, Joe, and Ryan? How do you think I know your name? Just guess how I know your name and how I came up with this photo. Because your best friend wrote it down in their questionnaire of extremely important photos to get. Your best friend wrote this photo down. That's how I know your name. So I'm going to take a photo of you and your college friends, and it's not my choice, okay? I don't get why people think it's for me or for the planner or for the floors or for the caterer, okay? It's not for any of us. Like, we're here for your friend, your cousin, your brother. Like, shut up.
People are going to be selfish no matter what the situation.
Yes. That's another thing with family photos. Everyone's immediate family is almost always like on board, polite, like whatever. But I do now kind of like remind people that I'm like, we have the list that the bride and groom made. So we're going to do all of those photos first. And then if anything's missing, we can do it after. But the bride and groom made this or the couple made this.
Right.
We're going to focus on this first. Anyway. Okay. Vendor rant. My sister was the maid of honor and my husband had a best man. They were both to give a speech. My dad wanted to give a speech too, so I said okay, and he was scheduled after the other two. My attention-seeking dad cut my sister's speech short, taking the mic and did his speech before the best man. One of the points in his speech was something about how he was supposed to do the first speech. Another point was how my husband and I didn't really know each other that long, 15 months, and we were basically rushing. I was so hurt and embarrassed. It took a lot of strength to not tear up and run out of the room. I just tried to forget about it after it was said and done because I didn't want him to ruin my wedding day. I feel like I should also add that when he walked me down the aisle, he didn't want to sit down after handing me off to my husband. I was not paying attention to him because he was standing behind me, but my mom, his ex-wife, in the front row had to tell him to sit down. Attention seekers will do anything to get eyes on them.
I wonder why he's divorced.
Yeah, really. Oh my God. Also, it doesn't even annoy me. It just like makes me feel for the couple when the speech is, and it's always like the dad, like it's really not the friend or the sister or the brother that does it, but the parent speeches tend to just like rip their kid apart.
Yeah.
And they actually sometimes forget to even say like something good. about the kid. Okay, I get maybe if you want to say like one little like funny joke about the person that could be a dig, but you need to follow up every dig with the opposite quality that they have 100% of.
The pro con pro sandwich. Like you need to say something good before you say something bad, and then say something good again afterwards.
But also you don't need to, like, I feel like in speech writing or like whatever, like you don't want to just say something that's like completely so random that you're not, like a negative thing that you're not going to negate later. So like it might be funny to say like, oh, well, when we were growing up, she was a little bit selfish. She would always hug her toys and not share. But now she's the most selfless person I know. Like, or like she really grew out of that or something like that. Like you need to like kind of negate what you said to show that it was a joke.
There's
and
a
that
reason
it's like,
you put it in.
Yes, there's a reason you put it in there. And the reason wasn't just to be like, well, the bride's selfish as shit. I'm so happy she's getting married today. Like, why do you need to say that? You need to think thematically here. You need to think through things, okay? It's an art. Take a class. I'll give a Patreon class about that.
We literally could host a class between like, obviously for your working and the amount of weddings that I've been to in my lifetime, we could literally host a class. We should just do an episode on like problems we've come across at weddings. Not like crazy. They might not be crazy things, but it's shit that we need to smack someone around and tell them to stay in their lane.
That is a great idea. We should do like the art of
wedding etiquette,
wedding
guest etiquette,
or like the art of weddings. And like we talk about like, everything from a guest perspective, not from like the bride and groom. Well, I guess we could talk about bride and groom stuff. We have a little bit.
We can like interview friends and family before.
Yeah. Okay. I love that. Let's do it.
Maybe after Trisha's wedding, we can do a threesome, a trio episode with a bride on.
That's a good idea. Or we could do
a threesome.
Right.
Is what I thought you were going to say.
We could talk to Trisha prior about how like, okay, I have to cut people slack because I know it's coming from a place of love, but it's so funny. Like when people get engaged, there's a fire alarm going off. So we're just going to take a mini break. Okay, I think it's going away.
Next question.
What I was going to say is it's always everyone's first thought to be like, you should do this, you should do this, you should do this. And okay, I say it too. I tell my friends, have a destination wedding.
I tell all my friends
Italy.
that.
But anyway, we could talk about how annoying it is for brides when everyone's just like, when is this? What is this? Do this, do this,
Yeah.
do this. Although I don't know what to say other than just like, we can collectively all shut the frick up.
Next question, please.
At my sister's wedding, her husband's family friend, 60 years old, got so drunk he booted and passed out on a bench in the cocktail area before dinner started. We have many delightful pictures as his kids started decorating him with random bits of wedding decor across the night. Oh, he really slept there across the whole night.
Wait, also real quick, how fast do you drink to have thrown that many back in 1 hour of cocktail hour / ceremony time?
Were they pregame? That's crazy.
I'm suing that bartender for over serving.
Right. A friend of mine, Ellie, told me about how she was invited to her friend Barbara's wedding with a +1. Ellie's relationship was rocky and they were fighting all the time, to the point that Barbara had left several hints about maybe not bringing her boyfriend and, are you sure you want him there? Because we don't want any drama, etc. Ellie brought him anyway and they had a blowout, relationship-ending fight during the reception. They went outside to do it, but apparently everyone could hear them through the closed windows screaming at each other. Ellie told me this story like it was funny. Like, whoops, I made a mistake. Funnily enough, I don't talk to Ellie anymore.
Ellie, you got problems, girl.
See, this is a situation where I think that it would be appropriate for Barbara to have uninvited him because they were probably invited, like either it was a +1 or he was specifically on the invitation. Like, I think she could have gone to her friend and been like, I'm witnessing as a friend your relationship and I don't like it and I don't like him and he is no longer invited to my wedding, and like revoke the invitation.
It's also just like the disrespect. Like, she didn't uninvite him. She knows he's a problem and you guys are a problem together.
Yeah.
She let him come. How dare you and he, grown-ups, behave like this in public? I don't care if you're at a bar, if you're drunk. If it starts to get to this point, you leave. You don't step outside. You cannot be there. The disrespect is disgusting.
Also, just not being able to read a room and being like, look, we're clearly fighting and we need to work this out. We need to do it at a later date. Or or like,
Not right now.
somewhere else. Yeah. Or just
take
like,
a rain check.
or leave. Or
I'll
be
take
like,
a rain check on this fight.
Yeah. If it can't wait, then you need to leave. Like actually leave, not just step outside and scream.
Literally leave. Get in the car.
Crazy.
Adios, muchacho. You know what? I'll have some cars waiting outside of my wedding, just waiting to take people away. If you stand up, the aunt that stands up with the phone during the ceremony, the friend that gets into a fight with her boyfriend, and whoever rips their pants. I'll have 3 cars waiting out front to take you guys
I'll
away.
have 2 cars and a pair of pants.
Men's and women's.
Yeah. Yeah. My first husband's best man was a beach bum kind of guy and showed up in his tux wearing flip-flops. Fortunately, my uncle wore the same size shoe and lent him his for the ceremony. The same guy was a best man for his brother's wedding a year earlier. He thought it would be hilarious to streak naked through the reception hall with a bag over his head. I talk about all the time the lack of humor in this country. The lack of understanding comedy. Please. This was in the 80s when streaking was all the rage.
Okay. All right.
As he ran out of the room, he missed the doorway, slammed into the door jamb.
Now that's funny. That
knocked himself out.
Funny.
That is, you get
That
what
I can get behind.
Yeah, you get what you paid for in that one.
Play stupid games, you win stupid prizes.
Yeah, exactly. My husband's brother was getting married. We're at the reception, approximately 150 people. Their aunt stands up to say a prayer. She's a Catholic nun. And the prayer included a blessing for Owen and Kathy, which would have been lovely, except Kathy was his ex-wife's name. Husband and I looked at each other and were like, did she say what I think she said? That is sad.
That is really sad.
Okay, I actually really feel for brides and grooms that people say their name wrong. And I feel like it happens a lot in religious ceremonies where it's a priest that doesn't actually know them and they maybe had multiple weddings that day or like, or maybe they do know them and it was like a long-term ex's name that they accidentally said.
And just like a slip of the tongue. Like,
yes.
No one's doing it malicious. Well, some people do it maliciously. We read about them on other episodes. But when it's like a loved one, they're really not doing it maliciously. And like people do make mistakes and it is so sad.
I will say if it's a mistake that's like, if an officiant were saying like Erin and whoever, and they were like Erinica, or like they accidentally said like Erica, or like if they called me Kelsey one time because they're like,
that's what I mean by a slip of the tongue. Like sometimes you're just like reading, you're panicked, you're in front of 400 people. Like, you're just, you know, like, oh, you're blah, 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 and then like whatever comes out. It happens.
Yeah. I would cut that slack if that happened to me. But then what would really make me sad, and it makes me sad for other people, is when people, the officiant, fully says the wrong name because they genuinely don't even know the person's name. And I've seen that happen multiple times where they get the groom's name right and they say the completely wrong name for the bride, like Kathy to like Rebecca, like something not similar whatsoever. Clear, and they say it multiple times, like they literally do not know this woman's name. And that makes me sad because it's like, as a vendor, they are paying you money, and like a priest, I guess I'm gonna call it a vendor though, like you have one job, okay, and it's one person's day, and this is extremely important to them. And like you might have 100 weddings a year, they have one in their entire life sometimes, and you should really know their name and you should call them by their first name. Like that's so sad. I'd be really sad if someone gave my ceremony and called, like, I actually think that if I were, I'm not going to get married in a church, but if I were and the priest said the wrong name 2 times, I think I would turn to them and be like, by the way, my name is Kelee. Because then for the remainder of the security. But then for the remainder of the ceremony, they would probably get it right. And I would appreciate that.
Honestly, and it's not rude.
No, of course not.
A priest corrected me at a wedding once.
Really?
It was a COVID wedding, and they canceled like their big wedding to do just like the little church ceremony. And I was doing one of the readings, and I went up at the wrong time, like and it was just the completely wrong time. And the priest looked at me and was like, "Erin, no." And I just like went down off the altar, and then I waited patiently until it was actually my turn, and then he was like, "Erin," like waved me back up.
Yeah,
so it was fine.
I think that's fine. That happens a lot, actually. Like people get up at the wrong time or whatever. Okay, let's do one more. Oh, this one's funny. We can compare it to a wedding of someone we know. Blue is going to join us for our last story. Okay, good boy.
He's here.
He's a good boy. My mother's aunt didn't bring a wedding gift and left with an armful of unopened liquor bottles from behind the bar. Just helped herself. We were actually, I could relate multiple things, but I think the one that I was thinking is we were at a wedding and the groom and his friends went behind the bar and took a bottle of liquor, and their like liquor licenses are so strict. Like you cannot, a lot of wedding venues don't even give shots. Like they're not allowed to give out straight liquor.
Right.
The groom took the bottle and they were all passing it around, drinking, taking a swig. And the venue came to the bride's parents and they were like, this is like actually illegal. And if they don't stop, like we're going to have to call the cops on the groom. And the bride's dad was very upset about that and like went over, and they were all like very close, happy family. And he kind of had to like yell at his like now son-in-law because it was that or the cops were coming. Like he had to be like firm enough that it's like, this needs to end right now, which I think is so funny. But yeah, don't take liquor bottles from a business.
Correct.
Ever. It's illegal. It might even be like, I don't know. Do you think that's probably not a felony? But
I mean, stealing alcohol, like maybe to an extent, like could like classify it under like drugs of some sort because it is like a drug. Alcohol's a drug. So it's like maybe they could like, if they wanted to heighten the offense, they could probably throw something on there.
Yeah, we'll just call it a felony for dramatic effect. It's a felony.
It's a felony.
So don't steal. Okay, that was good. Any final thoughts?
Behave at weddings. Like, come on, you guys.
Seriously.
In 2025, we're behaving at weddings.
Yes.
Do you have any highlights? Like, what's your number one thing that you loved about 2024? Just one thing, if you had to pick one thing. It doesn't
Getting
have
blue.
to be. What'd you say?
Getting blue.
That was mine.
Oh, it means it really hits then.
He is mine. And he's finishing out 2024 with us.
Yeah.
Look at him falling asleep already. He is our little angel baby. He loves everyone. Well, he loves everyone we love and everything we love.
Especially chocolate.
He's a good guard dog.
He loves eating chocolate and grapes and chocolate covered grapes.
And garlic and everything else that's bad for dogs. Oh, sweet boy.
Look how cute he is, you guys. Watch us on video.
This is our 2024 highlight right here in the studio with us.
Also, I have about 100 more wedding guest craziness stories, so we could do a whole part 2 on this. I liked it.
A whole part 2 with just stories that you and I tell and not stories that people give to us.
True.
That's what we'll do on the next one.
All right. Thank you so much for listening to our episode and listening in 2024. Please share our podcast with your friends. In 2025, our goal is to hit #1 on the podcast charts worldwide in any category, and we're almost there. So please help us get there and make our dreams come true.
We love you.
We appreciate you.
And we'll see you in the next one. Bye. Happy 2025.